The Mercy's Deception. The UHMS Mercy of Terra drifted through the black expanse of the outer rim like a white leviathan, her hull gleaming under distant starlight. At 3 kilometers long and half a kilometer wide, she was one of the largest vessels humanity had ever launched into the void. Red crosses, each the size of a city block, adorned her flanks in brilliant crimson against pristine white armor plating. Every language in the known galaxy could read the designation scrolling across her bow in holographic letters: Protected Medical Vessel, Galactic Convention Article 7. On the bridge, Captain Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the observation viewport, hands clasped behind her back. She was a woman of 43 years, with silver threading through her black hair and eyes that had seen too much suffering. The white medical uniform she wore bore the insignia of both Starfleet Medical Command and the International Red Cross. Around her, the bridge hummed with quiet efficiency. Medical officers monitoring bioscan stations, communications specialists coordinating with hospitals across 3 sectors, and navigation personnel plotting courses to the next crisis. "Captain, we're receiving a distress signal," Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb announced from the communications station. "It's from Epsilon Mining Colony, Sector 773. "They're under attack," Chen turned smoothly. "Details. Approximately 4,000 colonists, mixture of human and non-human workers. They're reporting bombardment from orbit. Multiple casualties. Medical facilities are overwhelmed." Webb's face tightened. "Captain, they're saying the attackers are Kralthor Supremacy warships." A cold silence fell across the bridge. Everyone knew the Kralthor, a reptilian species whose empire had been expanding aggressively through the outer rim for the past decade. They were known for their brutality, their contempt for what they called lesser species, and their complete disregard for galactic law. "Set course for Epsilon Colony. Maximum speed," Chen ordered. "Sound general quarters. All medical teams to standby positions. Emergency surgery bays 1 through 15. Prepare for mass casualties." "Captain," Webb hesitated. "The Kralthor don't exactly respect medical neutrality. Last year they fired on a Centauri hospital station." "I'm aware, Lieutenant Commander." Chen's voice was calm, almost serene. "Helm time to Epsilon Colony?" 14 hours at maximum cruise, Captain. Make it 12. "I don't care if you burn out the secondary engines doing it." Chen moved to her command chair and sat down with practiced ease. "And Webb? Send a priority message to Starfleet Medical Command. Inform them we're responding to the distress call and may encounter hostile forces." "Aye, Captain." The Mercy of Terra came alive. Deep in her engineering sections, massive fusion reactors cycled up to full power. Her 4 main engines, each the size of a small building, began pushing her massive bulk through space at speeds that seemed impossible for something so large. Throughout her 147 decks, medical personnel rushed to prepare. Surgery rooms were sterilized. Supply closets were stocked. Trauma bays received fresh medical equipment. The ship carried over 12,000 medical personnel, doctors, nurses, surgeons, specialists in every field of medicine known to humanity, and dozens of alien species. What most of the galaxy didn't know was that every single member of that crew was also a combat veteran. 12 hours later, the Mercy of Terra dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Epsilon system. The mining colony hung in orbit around a barren brown dwarf, its habitation modules scarred and burning. 3 Kralthor warships circled it like sharks, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. They were smaller than the Mercy, but they were designed for one purpose: destruction. "Open a channel," Chen commanded. "All frequencies maximum broadcast." "Channel open, Captain." Chen stood, her voice clear and firm. "This is Captain Dr. Sarah Chen of the United Human Medical Ship, Mercy of Terra. We are a protected medical vessel under Galactic Convention Article 7, responding to civilian distress calls. We are beginning emergency evacuation and medical operations. Any interference with humanitarian operations is a violation of galactic law and will be prosecuted accordingly." On the bridge of the lead Kralthor warship Bloodclaw, Commander Vexnar listened to the transmission with amusement. He was a towering creature, nearly 3 meters tall, his scales a deep crimson that darkened to black along his spine. 4 yellow eyes gleamed with predatory intelligence as he studied the human ship on his view screen. "A hospital ship," he hissed, his translator rendering the words in a sibilant whisper. "How convenient. Tactical, what do your scans show? His tactical officer, a younger Kralthor with bright orange scales, studied her console. Minimal shielding consistent with civilian vessels, Commander. No weapon signatures. Large power generation, but it's all routed to medical systems and engines. Crew complement appears to be medical personnel only. Vexnar's mouth split in what might have been a smile, revealing rows of crystalline teeth. The humans send healers to save mining slaves. How typical of weak species. He leaned forward in his command throne. Hail them. The mercy of Terra's viewscreen flickered, showing Commander Vexnar in all his predatory glory. Chen met his gaze without flinching. Human medical commander, Vexnar began, his tone dripping with contempt. You will cease your approach immediately. The subjects on that colony are claimed property of the Kralthor supremacy. You have no authority here. Those subjects, as you call them, are civilians protected under galactic law. Chen replied evenly. We are here to provide medical assistance and evacuation. I strongly suggest you withdraw and allow us to complete our humanitarian mission. Vexnar laughed, a sound like grinding glass. You suggest? You and your defenseless floating hospital suggest that I withdraw my battle fleet? His four eyes narrowed. Here is my suggestion, human. You will transfer all subjects aboard that colony to my ships. They will be processed appropriately. If you comply, I may allow your ship to leave intact. That's not going to happen, Commander. Chen's voice remained calm, but something had changed in her eyes. Something cold and ancient. I'll give you one more chance. Withdraw your forces and allow us to complete our medical operations or face the consequences. Vexnar's amusement vanished. Consequences? You dare threaten me? He gestured sharply. Fire a warning shot across their bow. Let's teach these humans about consequences. The Bloodclaw's plasma batteries flared. Bolts of superheated matter screamed across the void, passing within meters of the Mercy's hull. On the Mercy's bridge, officers gripped their stations as proximity alarms blared. Chen didn't move. Lieutenant Commander Webb, please repeat our warning in Kralthor, Synthari, Proxima Common, and all 44 other recognized galactic languages. Make sure there is no possible confusion about our status and protections. Aye, Captain. For the next 3 minutes, the Mercy of Terra broadcast her warnings in every known language. Chen never took her eyes off Vexnar's image on the view screen. The Kralthor commander watched with growing irritation. Enough of this, Vexnar snarled. If they will not leave, they will serve as an example. Humans and their weakness for mercy. Communications. Send this message to all Kralthor vessels in this sector. Today, we teach the galaxy that mercy is for the defeated. He turned to his tactical officer. Target their medical bays. Fire at will. The Bloodclaw and its 2 sister ships opened fire. Plasma bolts and kinetic rounds hammered into the Mercy of Terra's hull. The ship shuddered under the impact. On Deck 47, a plasma bolt punched through the outer hull and detonated in Medical Bay 3. 23 people died instantly. Doctors, nurses, and patients vaporized in the explosion. On Deck 92, kinetic rounds tore through bulkheads, killing 17 more medical personnel who were preparing surgery rooms. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Damage control teams raced toward the breaches. Medical personnel scrambled to evacuate patients from damaged sections. On the bridge, Captain Chen stood motionless, watching her ship being torn apart. Her jaw tightened. Her fists clenched. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, but everyone on the bridge heard every word. Confirmed hostile fire on a protected medical vessel. Confirmed casualties among medical personnel and patients. She turned to her executive officer. Commander Park, confirm all civilian vessels are clear of the engagement zone. Confirmed, Captain. All civilian traffic has been cleared. Confirm all evacuation shuttles from the colony are aboard or on final approach. Confirmed, Captain. Last shuttle docking in 90 seconds. Chen took a deep breath. Her next words were spoken with perfect clarity, each one falling like a hammer blow. Protocol Nightingale is now active. All hands to combat stations. Unlock weapon systems. Target the hostile vessels. Prepare to return fire. For a moment, nothing happened. Then across 3 kilometers of pristine white hull, panels began to slide open. On the Bloodclaw, Commander Vexnar was savoring his victory when his tactical officer suddenly screamed, Commander, the human ship, it's reconfiguring. I'm reading massive power surges. Multiple weapon signatures coming online. What, that's impossible. Our scans showed. Scans were wrong, Commander. They were hiding them behind medical equipment. I'm reading. Blessed ancestors. I'm reading weapon signatures that exceed our entire battle group. Vexnar stared at his view screen in horror. The hospital ship was transforming before his eyes. What he had thought were simple sensor arrays were rotating, revealing targeting matrices of staggering sophistication. Panels marked with red crosses were sliding aside, exposing rows upon rows of point defense cannons. The massive cylindrical structure he'd assumed was some kind of medical scanner array was separating into segments, revealing its true nature, a railgun the size of a frigate. Captain Chen sat down in her command chair with deliberate slowness. When she spoke again, her voice was no longer that of a doctor. It was the voice of a warrior who had chosen healing over killing, but who still remembered how to do both. Gentlemen, she said to her bridge crew, let's show them why humanity separated its doctors from its soldiers. Not because we couldn't do both, but because we chose not to. She locked eyes with Vexnar through the view screen. Weapons free. Fire. The mercy of Terra's railgun spoke, and the galaxy learned that humanity's hospital ships carried more than medicine. They carried a promise. We will heal all who come in peace, and a warning. Harm our healers, and discover why we keep them separate from our warriors. The mercy has limits. The railgun's discharge lit up the void. Like a newborn star, the projectile, a tungsten carbide, spike weighing 3 tons and accelerated to .03 light. Speed crossed the distance between the mercy of Terra and the blood claw in less than a second. There was no time for evasion, no time for countermeasures, no time for the Kralthor crew to even comprehend what was happening. The spike hit the blood claw's forward shields and punched through them like they were tissue paper. It pierced the warship's armored hull without slowing, carved through 12 decks of bulkheads and equipment, struck the main reactor containment vessel, and exited through the aft section, still traveling at 98% of its impact velocity. For a moment, the blood claw simply hung in space, seemingly intact. Then light bloomed from within as its reactor went critical. The warship broke apart in perfect silence, torn into 3 massive sections that tumbled away from each other, trailing atmosphere and debris. Commander Vexnar survived the initial impact. He found himself in what remained of his bridge, alarms screaming, consoles exploding, and his crew dying around him. Through the cracked view screen, he could see the human hospital ship, and now he understood his fatal mistake. Humanity hadn't sent a hospital ship to save civilians. They had sent a warship that also happened to have hospitals inside it. On the bridge of the Mercy of Terra, Captain Chen watched the blood claw's destruction with cold eyes. Around her, the bridge had transformed. Medical officers now manned combat stations with practiced efficiency. The serene atmosphere of a hospital had been replaced by the controlled urgency of a warship entering battle. Target destroyed. Captain, reported Lieutenant Commander Webb, who now wore a tactical headset and was coordinating targeting solutions. 2 hostile vessels remaining. They're attempting to maneuver. Denied, Chen said simply. Weapons walk them through what happens next. Point defense batteries engage. Along the Mercy's hull, hundreds of automated cannons swiveled toward the 2 remaining Kralthor warships. They had been disguised as heat radiators, communication arrays, and sensor pods. Now they revealed their true purpose. The cannons opened fire in a devastating symphony, streams of hypervelocity rounds creating a net of destruction around the fleeing warships. The second Kralthor vessel, the Venom Strike, attempted to return fire. Its plasma batteries lit up as it launched everything it had at the massive human ship. The bolts streaked toward the Mercy of Terra, and for a moment it seemed they might succeed where the first barrage had failed. Then, the Mercy's point defense system, engaged. 96% of incoming fire was intercepted and destroyed before it could reach the hull. The remaining 4% splashed harmlessly against military-grade shields that had been hidden beneath the medical ship's seemingly minimal defensive systems. What the Kralthor had assumed was simple radiation shielding was actually overlapping layers of gravitational and electromagnetic barriers, powerful enough to stop a nuclear blast. Their shields are down, Captain, Webb reported. Should we destroy them? Chen was quiet for a moment, her fingers steepled before her face. When she spoke, her words were measured. No. Disable their engines and weapons. I want survivors who can carry our message. Aye, Captain. Surgical strike authorized. The Mercy's secondary batteries, disguised as emergency thruster pods, fired precise bursts. Kinetic rounds slammed into the Venom Strike's engine nacelles, shattering them. More rounds destroyed weapon emplacements one by one, each shot placed with surgical precision. Within 30 seconds, the Kralthor warship was dead in space, helpless and drifting. The third vessel, the Razor Claw, made the intelligent choice. It turned and ran, its engines burning at maximum as it desperately tried to reach hyperspace distance. "Captain, the third vessel is attempting to flee," Webb announced. "Should we pursue?" "No. Let them go." Chen stood and walked to the viewport, watching the Kralthor ship disappear into the black. "Someone needs to tell this story." Commander Park, secure the disabled vessel. Medical teams prepare to receive casualties, including Kralthor wounded. Park turned, surprise evident on his face. "Captain, we're going to treat them?" Chen looked at him with an expression that was both sad and fierce. "Commander, they're patients now. And on this ship, patients receive care regardless of who they are or what they've done. That's what makes us different from them." She gestured toward the shattered remains of the Blood Claw. "We became warriors when we had no choice, but we remain healers by choice. Don't forget which one defines us." Across the bridge, officers nodded. They understood. Every person aboard the Mercy of Terra had served in the Human Defense Forces during the Contact Wars. They were veterans who had seen humanity's first brutal encounters with hostile alien species. They had fought, killed, and survived, and when the wars ended, they had all made the same choice: to heal rather than harm. But they had never forgotten how to fight. In the medical bay that had been designated for enemy combatants, a young Kralthor warrior named Kreshtal regained consciousness. His scales were charred from plasma burns, his left arm was shattered, and he was fairly certain several of his internal organs had ruptured. He should have been dead. Instead, he was lying in a clean medical bed under bright lights while a human in white worked over him with alien instruments. "You're awake," the human said. It was a female, her voice surprisingly gentle. "Good, I'm Dr. Sarah Okonkwo. You're aboard the Mercy of Terra. You were injured when we disabled your ship. I've stabilized your major injuries, but you'll need surgery to repair your arm." Kreshtal tried to speak, but his translator was damaged. Dr. Okonkwo seemed to understand anyway. She produced a new translator and carefully attached it to his chest plate. "Why?" Kreshtal managed to croak. "Why do you heal me? We attacked you. We killed your people." Dr. Okonkwo paused in her work, her dark eyes meeting his. "Because you're a patient now. On this ship, that means something." She resumed, checking his vital signs. "Your commander ordered an attack on a protected medical vessel. That made him a war criminal under galactic law. You followed those orders, which makes you complicit. But right now you're badly injured and in need of medical care. My personal feelings about what you did don't change my obligations as a doctor. But your people. I saw them die. The attack on your medical bay." Something flickered across Dr. Okonkwo's face. Grief, rage, loss. But when she spoke, her voice remained steady. "Yes, 23 good people died in that bay. I knew all of them. Dr. Reeves was going to retire next year. Nurse Chen, no relation to the captain, just had a baby daughter 3 months ago. Orderly Williams made terrible jokes and the best coffee in the fleet." She met Kreshtal's eyes again. "They died doing what they believed in, saving lives. If I stop treating patients to seek revenge, their deaths mean nothing. Do you understand?" Kreshtal didn't understand. In Kralthor culture, revenge was sacred. The strong dominated the weak. Mercy was weakness. Everything he knew about the universe told him that this human should be torturing him, not healing him. And yet here he was, alive because a human doctor had chosen to save his life despite having every reason to let him die. "Your species is insane," he whispered. Dr. Okonkwo smiled slightly. "Maybe, but we're the kind of insane that builds hospital ships with railguns. Now hold still. This is going to hurt, but I'll be as gentle as I can." On the bridge, Captain Chen was receiving reports from across the ship. The damage to Medical Bay 3 was severe but containable. They had lost 40 people total, the 23 in the initial attack and 17 more in the second barrage. It was the worst casualty count the Mercy had suffered in 5 years of operation. "Captain, we've completed evacuation of the mining colony," Commander Park reported. 3,842 civilians aboard, mixture of human and 17 other species. Casualties are high. We've got over 1,000 critical cases and another 2,000 requiring immediate treatment. "Route them to surgery bays 5 through 20, Chen ordered. Activate the auxiliary medical decks. Pull people from the non-critical departments if necessary. I want everyone who can be saved to receive treatment within the hour. Aye, Captain. Park hesitated. Captain, we're also receiving wounded from the disabled Kralthor vessel. 230 survivors, most of them injured. Should we prioritize our own people? Chen turned to look at him, and in that moment she was every bit the warrior she had once been. Commander, every doctor on this ship took an oath. First, do no harm. That oath doesn't come with a species clause. We treat patients based on medical need, not politics. If a Kralthor is bleeding out and a human has a broken arm, the Kralthor gets treated first. Is that understood? Understood, Captain. Good, now get me a secure channel to Starfleet Medical Command. They need to know what happened here. 20 minutes later, Chen stood in her ready room, the door sealed, speaking to Admiral Marcus Stone via quantum encrypted transmission. The Admiral was an old friend. They had served together during the contact wars and one of the few people who knew the full truth about the medical fleet. Sarah, Stone's grizzled face filled her screen. Concern evident. We received your preliminary report. You activated Nightingale Protocol? They fired on us first, Marcus. Direct attack on a marked medical vessel. They killed 40 of my people and destroyed an entire medical bay. Chen's voice was steady, but Stone could see the pain in her eyes. I gave them every chance. Multiple warnings in every language. They didn't care. Stone nodded slowly. No one's going to question your decision, Sarah. The Nightingale Protocol exists for exactly this situation. But you know what happens next. The Kralthor supremacy won't let this go quietly. Let them complain, Chen replied coldly. We're protected under Galactic Convention Article 7. A hospital ship has the right to defend itself and its patients when attacked. We have every communication recorded, every scan logged. They fired first and they paid the price. The galaxy is going to have questions, Stone warned. How does a hospital ship carry weapons that can destroy battle cruisers? Chen allowed herself a small, bitter smile, because after the massacre at Geneva Station, after we lost 12 hospital ships and 40,000 medical personnel to unprovoked attacks, humanity made a decision. We would never again send our healers into danger without the means to protect themselves. She gestured toward the viewport where the wreckage of the Blood Claw was still visible. Every medical ship in the fleet is built to the same standard. We are hospitals first, warships second. We choose to heal. But if someone makes us choose between our oath to heal and our duty to protect our patients, we'll show them that humans are very, very good at both. Stone was quiet for a moment. How many Kralthor survivors are you treating? 230, plus the civilian casualties from the colony, including 80 Kralthor miners who were caught in their own people's bombardment. You're treating the warriors who attacked you? They're patients now, Marcus. That's all that matters. The Admiral shook his head slowly, something like wonder in his expression. You know, Sarah, most species can't understand it. How humans can be so violent and so compassionate at the same time. They think we're contradictory, unpredictable, dangerous. We are dangerous, Chen replied, but only when we have to be. The rest of the time, we're trying to make the universe a better place. She glanced at a data pad showing casualty reports. I lost good people today, but if I let that turn me into the kind of person who refuses treatment to wounded enemies, then they win. They prove that mercy is weakness, that compassion is foolish. She met Stone's eyes through the screen. I won't give them that satisfaction. I'll make sure the Council knows what happened here, Stone said. Full disclosure, full transparency. The Kralthor attacked a medical vessel, and you responded appropriately. Any questions about your armaments will be answered with a simple truth. We build hospital ships that can't be destroyed by those who would rather see our patients dead. Thank you. Marcus, stay safe out there, Sarah, and I'm sorry about your people. So am I. The transmission ended. Chen stood alone in her ready room looking out at the stars. Somewhere in one of those medical bays, Dr. Okonkwo was performing surgery on a Kralthor warrior. Somewhere else, human doctors were working desperately to save human miners. And in dozens of other bays across the ship's 147 decks, medical personnel of 12 different species were treating patients of 37 different species. That was the real power of the mercy of Terra, not its railgun, or its point defense systems, or its military-grade shields. Its power was the simple truth that every patient mattered, regardless of species or circumstance. But the weapons ensured that power could never be taken away by those who saw compassion as weakness. 3 days later, the Mercy of Terra departed the Epsilon system, leaving behind a colony rebuilding itself and a disabled Kralthor warship being towed home by its own people. In the medical bay designated for enemy combatants, Kreshetal was recovering from surgery. His arm had been saved, expertly repaired by Dr. Okonkwo's skilled hands. He would return to the Kralthor supremacy with his ship. But he would also return with a message he had been asked to deliver. Captain Chen herself had visited him the morning before his departure. She had stood beside his bed, this human female who commanded a vessel that was simultaneously a hospital and a weapon of terrible power. "You're being released to your people," she had told him. "You'll be transferred when they arrive to retrieve your ship. Before you go, I want you to understand something." Kreshetal had nodded, still uncertain how to process everything he had experienced. "Humanity builds ships like the Mercy," Chen had continued, "because we believe in healing. We believe in saving lives. We dedicate ourselves to medicine, to research, to helping others." She had paused, her eyes holding his. "But we also remember what happens when healers are left defenseless in a hostile galaxy. We remember Geneva Station, where 12 of our hospital ships were destroyed by species that saw our compassion as weakness." She had leaned closer, and Kreshetal had seen something ancient and terrifying in her eyes, the same look predators wore when defending their young. "So we made a promise," Chen had said softly. "We will heal anyone who comes to us in need. Human, Kralthor, anyone. We will save your life if we can, regardless of who you are or what you've done. That is our oath, and we will not break it." She had straightened. "But if you attack us while we're trying to save lives, if you fire on our ships, if you kill our doctors, if you harm our patients, you will discover why we separated our warriors from our healers in the first place. Because you couldn't do both." Kreshetal had asked. Chen had smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "No, because we can do both too well. We chose to separate them so we could focus on healing, but never ever mistake that choice for inability." She had turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Tell your supremacy what you saw here. Tell them about the hospital ship with railguns. Tell them that humanity offers mercy freely, but that mercy has limits." Now, as Kreshetal prepared for transfer, he understood his true purpose. He wasn't just a survivor, he was a message. Across the galaxy, on Kralthor Prime, the Supremacy Council listened to his report in stunned silence. They reviewed the tactical data, watched recordings of the Blood Claw's destruction, and studied the specifications of what they had believed to be a defenseless medical vessel. "A hospital ship," Supreme Commander Thackrell hissed, his ancient scales pale with shock. "A simple hospital ship destroyed 3 warships." "Not a simple hospital ship, Supreme Commander," Kreshetal replied carefully. "A human hospital ship. There is a difference." "Explain." "The humans—" Kreshetal struggled to find the words. "They are not like us, Supreme Commander. They are not like any species we have encountered. They dedicate themselves to healing with the same intensity that we dedicate ourselves to conquest. They will save the life of an enemy who just tried to kill them." He met the Council's eyes. "But they will also kill to protect those they are trying to save. They are contradictory, dangerous, unpredictable." "Are you saying we should fear their medical vessels?" Another council member demanded. "I'm saying we should fear what it means that their medical vessels are warships," Kreshetal replied. "If they arm their hospitals like dreadnoughts, what do their actual warships carry? If their doctors are warriors, what are their soldiers like?" The council chamber fell silent. "They treated you," Thackrell said finally, "after you attacked them. After you killed their people. They healed your injuries." "Yes, Supreme Commander. Why?" Kreshetal thought back to Dr. Okonkwo's gentle hands and firm voice, to the human medical personnel who had saved his life despite having every reason to let him die. "Because they are doctors first," he said quietly. "And because they want us to understand that their mercy is a choice, not a weakness. They want us to know that they can show compassion to enemies, and that makes them more dangerous than any species that simply kills without thought." Supreme Commander Thackrell was silent for a long moment. Finally he spoke. "Issue new standing orders. Kralthor vessels are to avoid confrontation with human medical ships. If encountered, they are to withdraw immediately. Is that understood?" "Yes, Supreme Commander." "And send a message to the Galactic Council. The Kralthor Supremacy acknowledges the incident at Epsilon Colony. We recognize the right of medical vessels to defend themselves when attacked." "We will," respect the Geneva Conventions going forward. It was as close to an apology as the Kralthor had ever given. Aboard the Mercy of Terra, now 3 weeks away from Epsilon and responding to a new crisis in the Antares sector, Captain Chen received word of the Kralthor's official statement. She read it once, nodded to herself and filed it away. Then she returned to Medical Bay 7 where a Zinthari child was recovering from a rare genetic disorder. The girl smiled when Chen entered, reaching up with small purple hands. Chen took them gently, feeling the child's three-fingered grip. "How are you feeling today, Lyra?" "Better, Captain Doctor. The medicine is working." "Good. Dr. Park says you'll be well enough to return to your family in a few days. Will you visit me again?" "Of course I will." Later, standing once again before the viewport in her ready room, Chen watched the stars slide past. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning a new truth about humanity. They were learning about the hospital ships that carried railguns, about the doctors who were also warriors, about the species that could show mercy to enemies and death to those who threatened the helpless. Let them learn, Chen thought. Let them understand that humanity's compassion is not weakness. It's a choice we make every day, every moment. We choose to heal rather than harm, but never mistake our choice for inability. On her desk, a datapad showed the updated statistics. 40,000 patients treated this year across the entire medical fleet. 23 species represented, a 96% survival rate, the highest in the galaxy, and only one battle fought only when given no other choice. That was humanity's way. The Mercy of Terra and her sister ships proved it every day. They were healers who could fight, warriors who chose medicine, vessels of both mercy and judgment. In a hostile galaxy, humanity had learned to carry both scalpels and railguns, and the galaxy was beginning to understand that sometimes the most dangerous warriors were the ones who preferred not to fight at all, because when they finally did fight, they fought not for conquest or glory or revenge. They fought for something far more dangerous. The belief that every life was worth saving, even the lives of their enemies. The end.